Buenas tardes a todo el mundo. Bienvenidos a otro programa de The Fumble Show, otro podcast de The Fumble Show. Otro programa. Bienvenidos a todos. Perdonad que estaba oyéndome a mí mismo. Siempre pasa. No soy, como sabéis, hoy no está Xavi, no está el chico de la tecnología. Tenemos a mi lado aquí hoy un invitado especial, un participante, o un fumbler como nosotros, que es Dani. Buenas tardes, Dani. ¿Cómo estás?
Hola, buenas tardes, Matías. Y nada, muchísimas gracias por invitarme y encantado de estar aquí y poder hablar de la NFL.
Muy bien, Dani. Como sabéis, como esto muchos de vosotros no siempre lo comentamos, nuestro podcast, nuestro grupo, nuestra comunidad 100% participativa, Dani pues nos escribió hace unas semanas, nos comentó pues, que quería participar y cómo no, pues al final, pues como lo que decimos siempre, muchos de vosotros sabemos que nos da un poco de vértigo a veces cuando hacemos programas en inglés, cuando tenemos algo un poco... Pero bueno, que no se vergüenza. Al final somos familia. Hoy vamos a entrevistar a un señor que ahora lo introduciremos. Vamos a ir a aquí tenemos a Lester. Good afternoon, Lester. How are you?
Doing good. How you guys doing?
Hi, Lester.
Really
nice
good,
to
really
meet
good.
you. Welcome.
Nice to meet you.
Daniel is one of our followers. He's from Valencia. He's one of the fumblers that we say on our community. I'm going to change just first, Lester, to Spanish to introduce you a little bit
Sure,
who
yeah,
you are
fine.
and the reason why of today's program, and then we can jump a little bit to this program.
Sounds
pues
good.
Como decía, bienvenidos a todos y muchas gracias por estar aquí. Hoy estamos con Lester Wiltfong, creo que se lo digo bien. Lester es un periodista y un podcaster de Chicago, de Estados Unidos, especialista en los Chicago Bears. Como sabéis, los Chicago Bears les damos una cobertura especial porque son el equipo, prácticamente podemos decir uno de los equipos de la casa, uno de los equipos que han decidido que España vaya a ser su international home para los próximos años. Nos preguntáis mucho qué es esto de international home. También se lo hemos preguntado nosotros a ellos porque tampoco sabemos muy bien con detalle si realmente hay intenciones, pues eso, de venir a jugar, de venir a tener un partido, si simplemente es tener un home base de personas que nos vayan a seguir. Entonces, los Chicago Bears les damos una especial atención como equipo que además sabemos que van a ganar muchos fans en los próximos años debido a este foco. Y pues queremos hacer un análisis más intensivo. Decimos lo mismo siempre. Si vosotros, que nos escribís muchas veces, la semana pasada nos escribió muchos fans de los Green Bay Packers, si tenéis ganas de que hagamos una entrevista con alguien de los Packers, con media, tenemos contactos, podemos escribir y hacer también programas en vivo con ellos. Saltamos ya a la entrevista de hoy con Lester. We are coming back to the English, to the English language. Good afternoon, Lester. Just a little bit, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit, who you are, what team. I think I already said that.
Yeah.
Do you follow and do you cover? What kind of programs do you make? And just a little bit of introduction. Feel free, please.
Yeah, my name is Lester Wiltfong. I write for WindyCityGridiron.com. Also host of the T Formation Conversation podcast, host of the Bear and Balance podcast. And our video home is at Second City Gridiron, and of course I cover the Chicago Bears. And I heard you mention the Bears, and I heard you mention the Packers in there. Yes, the Packers are the hated rival. Unfortunately, the last several decades, the Packers have kind of had the Bears number.
Let's start with a question of that. And now I see that. I remember last interview we made also from a JV from a Chicago podcaster also that he understood Spanish, so I couldn't say something strange, and because he was getting. The only thing we said about the Packers is because there's people asking us to make also programs and make a special. Spain, as we mentioned before, is a country that the NFL is growing. We have fans from many teams, and one of them is the Packers, and I'm going to lie to you, Packers have a lot of fans here in Spain. So, I don't know, Daniel, what team do you follow, Daniel?
My team is the Rams.
That's fine.
It's okay. Now
at least they ain't the Packers. Oh, my God. That would be terrible.
Here in Spain, almost everyone is Patriots fan because of Brady.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah.
Because the NFL now you can follow through and then the game passed. But at the beginning of the 2000, you can only watch on a private channel. So that was the Brady and the Patriots start to shine, and almost everyone is Patriots fan, or Patriots or 49ers.
That's it. It's true, because a lot of people got in, to the years lately, in the last years, and became fan mostly of the teams that were winning. So when you are, I assume, Lester, you are from Chicago, right? You are from Chicago.
I'm from the Chicagoland area right now. I mean, actually, right now I'm actually live in Wisconsin, which is technically Packers country, but it's okay. I'm like right over the border though, so I still maintain my Beardom here.
So this is why you are from the Bears, because you're close. But here in Spain, we don't have any team left now. The Bears, you made it, come approach to us, but traditionally we have no team. So people, when they start watching, Brady was winning almost everything. So it was an easy team to follow. People like to follow winning teams. I know a few people from the Detroit Lions going to the Detroit Lions now. So it's true that. So I'm going to start with a question that I also made in the last podcast, and that give us a closer perspective to us, the Spanish. What are the teams that you have biggest rivalry, the Chicago Bears? Are they Packers, or what other teams do you have big rivalries from the Bears perspective?
Yeah, it's traditionally the Packers. I mean, the Packers and Bears. I mean, they're a fairly close proximity. Illinois and Wisconsin. They're bordering states. These two teams have been around for 100 years, so they've always had a rivalry. Like I said, going back that far. So it just continued. I mean, they've had several decade stretches where the Bears were way better, the Packers were better. It kind of gone back and forth, and like I mentioned at the top, the last 3 decades, the Packers have kind of had the Bears number. So it's rough as a Bears fan, but every now and again, the Bears will stick it to them, and then of course the other teams in the division, the Lions and the Vikings, they're also rivalries of Chicago, but nothing tops the Packers. I mean, it's heated. It gets heated with Bears and Packers fans sometimes.
I assume, and now that I think you should be. You are happy with the results of the Packers the last years, because we're teams that are always made for winning Super Bowls, and they're always that close. And even last year, I don't know what your opinion about the game. I don't like talking with like rivals. It's happened the same with soccer. That I'm a Barca fan. They always talk about Madrid. I mean, the bad moment now in of the history. But I don't know what your opinion about how they got eliminated last year against the 49ers. I remember that game at home without I think the 49ers didn't score any touchdown. I think they lost, like, I don't know. I remember well, or yes, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough game. I mean, the Niners have had the Packers number. I mean, that's in the playoffs happened, and the Packers, even though they've had the Bears number for a long time now, they've only got a couple titles. One with Brett Favre, one with Aaron Rodgers, and for whatever reason, when the Packers get to the playoffs, they kind of falter. And as a lot of Bears fans, they'll say their two favorite teams are the Bears and whoever's playing the Packers. And that's kind of how that's kind of how we are as a fandom. It would be nice to get back to the Bears, always being on top, but we'll see what happens this coming up season.
And how do you see it? Sorry, Danny.
Do you think that this is the year? Because I don't see the Packers as strong as the last years, and the division is open, in my opinion.
I mean, it's possible that the Packers falter a little bit, but honestly, as long as they have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, they're always going to be in contention. The Bears, they have a much younger team. They're going through a mini rebuild right now. The Packers have returned a lot of their top talent, and they've been on top for a long time, and it's all because of the quarterback's position. And Aaron Rodgers is still one of the best in the game today. So as long as he's playing, I hate to say it, but I'm always going to assume the Packers are the class of the NFC North.
So the goal for this season is to achieve the playoffs.
For the Bears, I mean, obviously they want to be in the playoffs. I don't see it happening. I just think they have too many question marks. The quarterback's still kind of young. If everything goes perfect for them this season, yeah, I could see them contending, especially with the additional playoff spot. I mean, the Bears got in a couple years ago with an 8-8 record. So if you're 500 in the NFC, you're in the mix. I just don't think the Bears have quite enough to get through there. I think with the rebuild, a brand new offense, brand new defense, it'll take them some time to get going. And then if they have a nice, strong finish to the season, and as fans, we can look at it and say, wow, I see the future looks bright. I think that's what we as fans want right now.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions to ask you, Lester. You mentioned that you touched several points. I wanted to talk more deeply with you. The first one you mentioned, the QB. The year is clearly. I don't know your opinion. Is it clear that this is Justin Fields here?
Yeah.
Year one, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, he was fine last year as a rookie. A lot of rookie mistakes. The Bears didn't do him any favors. I mean, he wasn't really given a chance to earn a starting spot early. The Bears decided from the start that he was going to be a backup. They brought in Andy Dalton. They anointed him the starter without any type of competition at all. And so that changes your mentality as a player. If you don't have a chance, it changes how you approach the game, how you do things. And that's just how the Bears wanted to do it. They thought that was the best plan. Of course, Justin Fields was forced to play early because of an injury to Dalton. And when he got out there, he struggled because, he wasn't getting the reps with his teammates that he should have, that he was going to be playing games with. So he struggled. He had a lot of fumbles. He had some bad interceptions, some poor decisions. His pocket presence wasn't very good because he wasn't used to the pass pro in front of him. But as the year went on, some of the flashes came up. He had a real nice game against the Niners, a real nice game against the Steelers. He flashed a bit against the Packers. So, I mean, we kind of see the positives. We just hope now going into year two, it's his team. He knows it. He knows he's coming in. He's the man now. And it's a different mentality. So, he's putting the work in. And I think this year, I'm not expecting a Pro Bowl out of him or something like that, but I think he's going to have a very good season this coming up year. And again, he's going to show us fans that this is the right guy moving forward.
I actually think so. I actually think, I don't know, this is a topic that I also discussed in our last podcast, our show with the Bears. Do you think, if you had to put in your list, you remember this year has been the QB class of the draft. I don't want to go now into the draft. We'll go later, but you remember last year QB list was really, really exciting, or really promising. And in my opinion, you make a great choice because between I remember the first one was Trey Lawrence, second Zach Wilson, third Trey Lance. Then where was fourth? Where was you, or came some?
Fourth was Fields, and then Mac Jones came after that.
Do you think that was fair? This list, in your opinion, was a good choice? Would you have picked if you had the chance? I would say maybe Trevor Lawrence would say the first one was really clear. But would you pick Trey Lance or Zach Wilson instead of Justin Fields?
Yeah, I think if it was me making the pick, I like Justin Fields. I think, Lawrence was probably the best prospect last year, but I always thought Justin Fields was number two. There was some stuff said last offseason, some stuff from a few guys in the media that kind of sowed some seeds of doubt about the kind of player he was, the kind of work ethic he had, and that was proven to be a bunch of garbage. But it did cause him to fall in the draft. And I mean, for Bears, I mean, that's good for them because, his talent is there. His upside is there. He's a great athlete. He has a good arm. He likes going deep. I mean, he fits what the modern NFL is. So if it was me making the pick, he'd have been my second guy behind Lawrence.
So, yeah, me too. If I want to be honest with you, Justin Fields, I got surprised when you picked them. I think it was a really good choice, a great choice. One of the good choices, traditionally, I don't know, for your general manager, always people criticize that you didn't have a proper quarterback. It's something I want to discuss with you also. A proper quarterback for how many years? They said how many years, Lester?
I mean, the last really good quarterback the Bears had. I mean, they had Jay Cutler, who was fine, but the team didn't really build around him properly. I mean, you got to go all the way back to the 80s when it was Jim McMahon, and He was a great fit for that team, but he had a lot of injury issues. So, I mean, the franchise itself has not had a legitimate, championship caliber quarterback since the 40s, which is ridiculous. I mean, the Bears passing records, they have the worst passing records in all the league. The most touchdowns in a season is 29. That's terrible.
Oh.
The most yards in a season for a quarterback is 3,800, which is, again, they've never had a 4,000 yard passer. And it's just, it's crazy to think about because, like the last 10, 20 years, it's become a passing league, and the Bears have never had a guy that could do that.
Yeah, I think so. And I was remembering one. I don't know your opinion because I don't like to be bad, but I always like to ask these questions. Well, your opinion, I always ask to the Bears fans, your opinion about Mitch Trubisky. Is going to have a second chance in the NFL? Do you think so? You were fair with him, what's your opinion about this guy?
I liked I liked him as a player. I mean, he's a good kid. He worked hard. When the Bears drafted him, I thought that was the wrong pick. I thought they should have taken Deshaun Watson at the time. Trading up for him, which at that point at the point they traded up for him, there was Trubisky, there was Mahomes, there was Watson all on the board. And it was like, why would you trade up one spot when you can have your choice of these three guys, whoever's there? But, that's Ryan Pace, the GM at the time. That was his guy. He really wanted him. He believed in him. He made the move. And I thought he showed some promise, but ultimately he just didn't live up to the hype. Part of that was probably Matt Nagy, his scheme. He was very, very rigid. He didn't let Trubisky do stuff that Trubisky wanted to do. Trubisky is, he's not a pocket passer. I mean, you're going to see in Pittsburgh, if they use him properly, I think he'll be fine. But ultimately, he's got to learn how to read the defense a little better. He just makes too many mistakes when he's seeing things against man coverage. He's fine because he understands what's going on. But there are some zone coverages that kind of confused him while he was in Chicago. And that may happen again when he's in Pittsburgh. And of course, Pittsburgh, they did sign him, but they also drafted a quarterback early who's sitting right there waiting for him. So if Mitch struggles in Pittsburgh, they're going to go to Pickett pretty quick, I think.
Yeah, and it's something, I don't know your opinion about it, but last year when he signed for the Buffalo Bills, I thought that he was not going to be a starter quarterback anymore. And I don't know why, but I thought that he lost all the chances. But this year, I think he had a chance. And when I read some of these QB prospect lists, between make 1 to 30, Trubisky is not compared to maybe another ones. A lot of people have trust on him, and he's going to have a good team in Pittsburgh. The Steelers are always a very compensated team, defense, attack, full line, good receivers. They trade. I think it was free agent Juju. But they always have a good compensated team. So I think he will have a second chance if not they have this young guy on the track that he's going to perform. But this is something I like to ask. If you think that he's going to have a second chance on the NFL, and if maybe he's going to demonstrate why he was chosen that high on a draft night some years ago.
I mean, he has a chance. Like I said, he's got some stuff to clean up. I thought, that he landed in a good situation for him. The competition, there's competition at quarterback there, but he should be the starting guy there going forward. And, like you said, it's a good team around him. Mike Tomlin's a great head coach, so great. He'll understand how to get the best out of his quarterback. He'll make sure his offensive coordinator is doing that. It's a good offense for him. They have a decent offensive line. I mean, because they're going to want to run the ball as much as possible. They always play good defense. It's similar to the Bears, only they're successful as far as the plan and the philosophy they want to run by. So I think he'll be fine. Again, at the end of the day, though, he has to show that he can read a defense properly. He has to show that he can make the right read. If they keep things simple for him, boot him out, give him half-field reads, I think he'll be fine. Yeah. He can take advantage of his athleticism if he's going to run the ball. That'll help him. But it's a situation where there is a quarterback waiting. So he may have that in the back of his mind that he can't make a mistake. Otherwise, they'll pull the trigger.
Yeah. This pressure.
The pressure's there for sure.
Yeah. Before the draft, I didn't know, or I didn't consider. That was the thing that the Steelers were going to pick up a quarterback on the draft. I thought that they were going to believe in him, like the Falcons have done with Mariota. Are both cases that quarterbacks that it would seem that they had another chance on the NFL, but both of them you see them that they are starters in a franchise that are normally looking high. They are not, sorry for that, Jacksonville or something like that. Are quarterbacks of the Atlanta Falcons. That it's true that the last seasons were a little bit disappointing, but not far ago they reached thankfully into a Super Bowl. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, they are always a contender. Pittsburgh, they are the team that I think, if I'm not wrong, they have been 20 years or 18 years getting to the playoffs, if I'm not wrong, or something like that. So they're a team that are competing. But anyway, coming back again to the Bears, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm not going to ask you about your previous head coach yet. I'm going to ask you first about your actual head coach. Your opinions and expectations. Are you happy? Are you feeling? How are you feeling with that?
I am now. At the time when they made the move, I thought they're going to go an offensive guy just because of how much the franchise. They traded up for Justin Fields. That they spent draft capital to go up and get him. A young quarterback, a young offense. Yeah, I figured they'd pair him with a young, offensive-minded head coach, but that's not the direction they went. But so at the time, I wasn't really excited about the hire of Matt Eberflus, but the more we've heard him talk, the more we've heard his philosophy. He's talked about how, as a defensive-minded coach, how much he can help a young quarterback. He can tell the quarterback what the defense is trying to do. It's a different perspective from a coaching and teaching standpoint, but it makes a lot of sense. And then the fact that he's bringing in an offensive coordinator in Luke Getsy, who is going to devise this offense around Justin Fields' skill set. I mean, the base offense coming in, it's a Kyle Shanahan style, Mike Shanahan style offense, a lot of bootlegs, a lot of running game, a lot of play action. And that fits Justin Fields, what he wants to do. But the fact that they're now also going to tweak it to make sure it's what he wants, I think that bodes well for the franchise going forward.
People is asking me, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one that talked about when I said this. And I think I didn't say the name. People, I see here because I have some chats on Instagram also. People is asking me your opinion about Nagy.
I like the hire when he was brought in. I liked him. I thought he had a good message for the players. I thought he was going to be a good head coach. I liked the school he was coming from, the tree, the Andy Reid offense. I like that offense. But what Matt Nagy did in Chicago wasn't the Andy Reid offense. He wanted it to make it his own offense. It was the Matt Nagy offense. It was very rigid. He wasn't able to change. We talked about with Mitch Trubisky. He wasn't able to change what he wanted to do to suit Mitch Trubisky's skill set. He didn't do it last year when he had Justin Fields. The offense he ran was still the Andy Dalton offense. He didn't change things to fit his skill set of his players. So I soured on Nagy after a couple of years. Obviously, in 2018 with the playoffs, it was great. Club dub was fun atmosphere. The players seemed to like him. And even when the Bears were doing bad, I mean, there wasn't a lot of negative stuff about Nagy, the person. But Nagy, the coach, Nagy, the play caller, Nagy, the schemer, just wasn't very good. It just kept getting worse and worse. And his stubbornness came through far too often. He didn't want to run the ball. He would be critical of when the people would ask questions about running the I formation. He wouldn't do things that worked because he seemed like he was more worried about doing things his way. That's just not a good way to be a head coach in the National Football League. You got to be flexible.
I think so. You are clear, right? I have a similar opinion to you, Lester. And it's something, I have considered how last year, was something that was not working on really well. I think you have not the best team, as a roster, but a good roster. And it's something they are also, some colleagues that are asking me, and it will translate in my mind. And do you think that, and this is a question from Mala, do you think that the wide receivers, that with the actual wide receivers, Justin Fields is going to have a proper season? Is
The
going
receivers,
to help them? Yeah, with the receivers,
yeah, the receivers this season. I mean, they lost Allen Robinson, who obviously is a top receiver in the NFL. But last season, he didn't play like the same Allen Robinson that Bears fans have seen. You know, for whatever, he had COVID for a few weeks. He was down for that. He seemed disinterested at times. You know, he had the contract hanging over his head, and for whatever reason, you know, again, we're going back to Matt Nagy. He didn't really put Allen Robinson in a position to help the team the best way Allen Robinson could. You know, he ran him on a lot of really, really stagnant routes. He didn't really take advantage of the skill set of him properly. So I think this year's receiving core is better just because what they had last year. And again, Robinson's a fantastic player, but the guy last year wasn't the same guy. They got rid of Zamir Bird. They got rid of Marquise Goodwin. Those two guys had a lot of speed, didn't do much for the team. So this year, it's unproven. They have a legit guy they're going to go to in Darnell Mooney. He's going to be their go-to guy, but I think the depth behind him, it's unproven. But I think they have a chance to be better than what they were a year ago.
Can we agree that Darnell Mooney is a top receiver of the league?
My question was him.
I'm not sure if he's. I mean, I think from a target share standpoint, they're going to get him. They're going to throw to him a lot. I think last year he might have been top 10 in targets through the NFL. He had 81 catches. He's going to be their top targeted guy again. He'll have a chance. And this guy puts in so much work in the offseason. He lives and breathes football. I know you hear a lot about it. A lot of players say this about players. He legitimately does it. He doesn't really go out. He is just nonstop working. There's times where he's actually gone to the field late at night just because he wants to work on things by himself. He just does things differently, and that's kind of how his quarterback is Justin Fields. They're all about football. So I think Darnell Mooney's gonna have a great chance. He added some weight this season. He's up to I think 185, 183. He's never going to be the biggest guy. He's only 5'10", but he has legit speed. He can stretch a defense. His route running is improved from year 1 to year 2. It should make another jump. Darnell Mooney is going to be their number one. Now, can he be a legitimate number one? What you consider in the NFL? I think the jury's out, but I think for the Bears, he's their number one.
Right. These are good. I like your answer. I think it's quite. I was going to ask you the same as you, Daniel, because it's something that we have been discussing with the Bears fan of who is going to be the wide receiver one. It's clear I don't think it's going to be him, but you know that all teams as it's now trying to have also a really powerful wide receiver too. Because now that all the targets go to wide receiver one, or even you have a good tight end. That I know your opinion about your tight end one and your team. I don't know the name. I forgot. I hear the roster. I think it's Cole Kmet. Cole
Kmet's their tight end one. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know his name. I forgot. I don't know your opinion about the wide receiver too. But in this case, it's Byron. It's Byron Pringle, and also your tight end number one. I don't know your opinion about it.
The Bears signed Byron Pringle, and his experience in Kansas City was he worked a lot out of the slot. I think that's probably where the Bears put him. He'll get starter reps just because he's getting paid like that. He's more talented than some of the other guys that got there. But I think he'll find most of his work from the slot. I think Equanimous St. Brown was in line to be their second receiver as far as starting, but I don't think he'll be the target share. I think it's going to be Mooney, and then Pringles get the next most. They just traded for N'Keal Harry from the Patriots, former first-round draft pick. Big-bodied receiver, 6'4", 225, real big and strong. Hasn't caught on much so far, throughout his career. Looking for a fresh start. He'll be in the mix. But then you mentioned Cole Kmet. He had 60 catches last year. I like Cole Kmet. I mean, he was drafted. He was only 20 years old. He's still a fairly young player. He's improved his both years in the league. Another guy that added some muscle to himself. He's never going to be a really, really fast, like a Travis Kelce kind of player. Darren Waller, that's not his game. I mean, he is a traditional inline block and tight end that can kind of, run the seam, play action passes. I think you'll see that with Cole Kmet. I think Cole Kmet's going to get a ton of targets too. So as far as the number 2 receiver, who's going to be the target share will be Pringle. And then at the X receiver, the other starter, it'll either be St. Brown or the newcomer Harry. It should be a fun battle to watch during training camp.
And you mentioned interesting things, in my opinion. You mentioned really interesting 2 or 3 things I wanted to talk about separately. I think there's one discussion I'm I would say, and I'm not going to tell you all Leicester, but only watching the NFL maybe for the last 10, 12 years, and I've seen how this football is changing, how different positions are changing. I remember, I don't know how to say it, maybe 10 years or more, a little more. The position of running back was, I think, one of the most important on the teams. Now you see that there still are, but people is looking for really good wide receiver. You see how the position of wide receiver used to be important, really important, but how it used to be, and same with the tight end. The tight end, the traditional, you say, the guy that is know how to block, know how to open the way, has more kind, at every position. Now everybody wants a Darren Waller or Travis Kelce, or they are spectacular guys, they're amazing guys, but they're, I don't know, maybe it is a philosophy of mine, is not a question, that how football is changing, and the same with quarterbacks, that every day they run more than they throw, like your case, because Justin Fields is also a good runner. And the second thing that I wanted to talk with you is your opinion about Harry, Kill Harry. I think it's a really, really, really good point, and maybe he's a surprise this year. I don't know your opinion, Lester.
Yeah, as far as the positions go, you're right. I mean, a lot has changed in the last few years. It seems like there's more good running backs than teams really need right now, which is why you see a lot of teams in the NFL. They'll draft a guy, they'll let him play for their contract, and when the contract's up, they don't really offer him a deal to return. They offer him a fair market deal in the team's mind, but they're quick to let guys go because they know that they can draft a guy in the draft that can come in and run the ball. The problem that you run into as far as getting rookie running backs is they can't pass block, they can't pick up the blitz. That's a problem for the quarterbacks. You got to make sure you always have a veteran around that can actually do that aspect of the job. The Bears had that in David Montgomery. They drafted Khalil Herbert last year, and he had a really nice year for a rookie, but he did struggle in pass protection. So, you got to find those guys that can do it all. And like I said, the running back position has been devalued. I think there's still a place for the good elite ones in the league. I think David Montgomery has a chance for a really nice season this year.
Yeah.
And then as far as Harry goes, I think it's a good chance for him. I mean, he is a good blocking receiver. And again, we talk about how the positions have changed. He is a receiver, but the way the Patriots put him in a slot a lot. And that was kind of that's how teams use their tight end. They put him in the slot, like the wing tight end. I think the Bears could use Harry in a similar fashion, take advantage of him blocking guys on the perimeter, sneak him down the seam. The Bears haven't come out and said he'll play tight end. I mean, he's still a receiver, but he'll do some of the dirty work that you see some tight ends do in the league.
Yeah, hopefully, because it's a really versatile player. And I had a question from Alberto from Barcelona also. That he asked me if you expect more trades or more I don't know the word, more new players to be hired by the Chicago Bears in the coming days.
I'm not sure. I don't think there's any trades on the horizon. If something pops up, they may look at. I mean, they're always looking. I mean, they're new Jim Ryan Poles is in a reset year. He's looking to let his young players have a chance and looking to see what he has team moving forward. I think the Harry trade, came out that the Patriots were close to cutting him. So I think the Bears kind of swooped in and said, hey, we'll give you a 7th rounder. Don't cut him. We want him now. I mean, that's a good move for the Bears, a real low risk to get a guy like that.
Really?
I think if there's a move to be made for the Bears, it's going to be on the offensive line. I mean, it's hard to know until the camp happens as far as fans and as far as some of us watching the team, but there's a hole at right guard. I mean, right now it's Sam Mustipher. He struggled last year at center a little bit. They signed a new center in Lucas Patrick, kicked him over to right guard, and right now, if you look at the O-line, he's the one question mark that a lot of fans, a lot of guys in the media have, because they're not sure he has what it takes to play that spot. He's not quite as athletic that they want to have those guys up front with the new zone blocking scheme. So I think if a right guard comes available, whether through a team cutting him or through the trade block, I think they'll pull the trigger. But I think right now, the 90 guys on their rosters are going to be the guys that take into camp in a couple weeks, and they'll just kind of see what happens.
And about this, I have more questions. I have now 2 or 3 questions now to ask you. are not relationship, but this one, yes. How do you expect the offensive line? Do you think you have a competitive offensive line?
As far as competition, I think it's competitive as fact that there's a lot of spots up for grabs within the roster. Right now, they have a rookie at left tackle in Braxton Jones. They have second-year player Larry Borum at right tackle. Like I said, I mentioned Mustfors at right guard. The only two spots that seem set in stone is center, which is the new guy for
the guy you mentioned before.
And then at left guard is Cody Whitehair, who's returning a 7-8 year pro. So the other three spots I think are wide open. Last year's second-round draft pick Tevin Jenkins right now on the bench. I think once the pads come on, he'll assert his dominance and his physicality. He'll earn a spot somewhere. But there's good competition. Ryan Poles drafted 4 offensive linemen in the draft. He wants these guys to come in. He wants them to compete for a spot. He wants the best man to win. Yeah. As far as if they're competitive against teams once the season starts, I'm not so sure about that. Like I said, a lot of question marks there. I think they're going to scheme around some weaknesses they have. They're going to get Justin Fields in a move. They're going to try and run the ball as much as possible. A lot of play action, a lot of bootlegs. They want to get him going and, let him kind of be the focal point of the offense. But again, you got to have the guys up front. So that's why I think there may be still a veteran coming in at some point.
It's a complicated, it's a really open question. I have another one that has not relationship directly, but what we talked before is who is going to be the main player, the superstar, or the picture, the one that is going to be in the first page of the Bears, covers magazine this year in the Bears.
It's got to be a quarterback. I mean, it's a quarterback-driven league. He's their first-round pick from a year ago. They want him to be the face of the franchise. He'll have every chance to be that this season. With Justin Fields' skill set, you just got to be smart with him. You got to bring him along. Like I said earlier, his rookie season, I'm not going to call it a lost season because he learned quite a bit. It just wasn't the best thing for him. It may have been the best thing for the Bears, but where the Bears were a year ago, they thought they were going to compete for something. That's why they wanted to go with the veteran quarterback in Dalton. They should have started this mini rebuild last year, started Justin Fields stuff, but that was Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy trying to keep their jobs. It didn't work, it didn't work out. And so of course the Bears have a new regime. So now it's kind of like, again, a reset. They got to make sure Justin Fields is the guy, but if everything works out like the Bears hope, Justin Fields will be the face of the franchise, the main guy, the superstar, and leading this team to wins for the next decade, hopefully.
And the last question I have is it's kind of, what's your opinion about Nick Foles?
I liked the acquisition at the time. I thought getting him was smart. I thought the money was kind of bad. I thought they could have waited and kind of not spent a draft pick on him. But the player itself, I liked the pickup. What they spent for him, wasn't too sure. I thought he was fine. I mean, he kind of put Nagy up and he kind of exposed some of the stuff. I mean, there were a few times he was caught on camera taking shots at Nagy. There was an argument on I think one of the games. Another time he was caught on camera saying, the offense isn't working. So I think Nick Foles, when he was in front of the media, he was the team player. When they caught him kind of off guard, his real feelings came through. So I think Nick Foles is fine. He was okay for the Bears last year. He helped them to one of their wins against the Seahawks. So he's fine. It was good to move on from him. I would have liked to see them get a draft pick for him, but at the end of the day, it's like, look, the trade isn't materializing. Ryan Poles, the GM, said, look, we're going to cut you, let you go find a new team on your own. Good luck to you. I think that was the best move all around.
Yeah, I think so. And he has another opportunity. In my opinion, he's going to have another opportunity. I think that I don't know yourself, and he's not about the Bears. I'm not a big fan of. I think he's again the second quarterback of he's in Indianapolis, right? He's
the Colts. Right now.
Yeah, he's again the second quarterback of Carson Wentz. Again, it's Matt Ryan. It's Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan. No, yeah. No, it's a good spot for Nick Foles. He knows that offense. Yeah. He's been in that offense before. He understands. Again, he's a veteran. He knows who he is. He's a backup. He knows he's going in behind Matt Ryan. But again, Matt Ryan is getting up there in age. He may not play all 17 games. Nick Foles have a chance to play a little bit and kind of keep his career going.
What I want to say.
Yeah, so I think it's a good decision for Foles' career that he went to the Colts. It's a good spot for him. And as like I said, as a player, I've always thought he was good. He helped Justin Fields quite a bit here last year. Justin Fields talked a lot about Nick Foles and Andy Dalton, how much those two veterans helped him. They helped him grow as a professional. So, I'll always be rooting a little bit for Nick Foles just because I like him as a guy.
Yeah, and both were, I think, good examples for him because we don't need to forget that Nick Foles was a backup Super Bowl champion.
Yeah.
Huh? So and I don't know if he was MVP of the Super Bowl. I don't know
he was that year. Yeah, he won it. Yeah.
When he won it, he was. So he's not that. Not a lot of people can say that. I don't know if Case Keenum can say that. I know it's the kind of, when I say backup quarterback, always brings in my mind Case Keenum. I don't know why, but it's Case Keenum. And I don't know why. It's example. This guy they always with the jacket with So, but it's true that he had two good guides for a first season. For me, Andy Dalton is a quarterback that I always like. I think he has personality. I think he had bad luck with the Bengals because you see the first season or second season he left. If they make this good season, but he was really good on the Bengals. He made big effort with them, and Nick Foles also was a good example. I think for him to show a path of how he would be in the NFL. But I was also going to ask this my question about the running back position. This is a discussion. I thought that the running back position, in this case, the running back was going to be the last year, the year of David Montgomery. The year of he was going to explode more than maybe he actually had. I don't know if you think that now is the year of the bum of your running back.
Yeah, I think there's a chance he's gonna have a really nice season. Last year he had a stretch where he was injured. When he was out, Khalil Herbert came in and he ran really good. I think he ran as good as, if not a little better than Montgomery did. Like I mentioned, the problem with Herbert last year was some of the pass protection. Isn't know where the blitz was coming from. He missed a few things, a few checks he missed there. Montgomery's a smart football player. He knows his role. The Bears are going to a more wide zone philosophy, but they're still going to run a lot of inside zone stuff. And Montgomery doesn't have the elite breakaway speed, but he's fast enough to get through the hole. And we saw this offense last year in Green Bay. Luke Getsy, the new OC, of course, came from the Packers. They had two really good running backs last year in Green Bay. They used both of them interchangeably quite a bit. I think that could be the philosophy in Chicago. You think they want to ride the hot hand, whether that's Montgomery or Herbert. I think Montgomery will still be your starter. But I think if Montgomery gets on a roll, they may let him play a little bit more.
That's it.
They want to use both in the passing game. Montgomery has shown that he is, really good out of the backfield, good on screens. He can split out wide. So if Herbert can show that part of his game, I think you'll see both running backs have a nice season this year.
And this is another trend, the trend of how the football is changing. The football is changing. Not also I was thinking about two of your rivals in your conference, as the Packers and also the Vikings. The Vikings with this strategy of having two powerful, also running backs. They work really good. In fact, there's some part of the season that we thought that Juan Mattison was going to be the first. I know, Danny, you were going to say something, Danny.
Yeah, the last year the running back of the Vikings. It was crazy that the head coach didn't use it properly. A guy with so much talent, he was not take all his potential on the field. So, and I think that's the big question for the Bears this year. I think the problem was Matt Nagy with his new coach. We will see all the potential from his quarterback, from his running back. It's the quarterback has a lot of potential. Justin has a lot of potential, but you have to be in the right place in the right moment with the right coach. See Mahomes or Josh Allen at Buffalo with the right coach, with time, growing up every day. So I think let's hope that with the Everflux, this guy can be a star for the league.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, years past, it always seemed like it was always the Matt Nagy offense, and you think of all the great offenses in the NFL is, they should revolve around your quarterback. I mean, this should be the Justin Fields offense, and that's what they talk about making it. They want to make it, build around his skill set, take advantage of the speed at receiver they have. I mean, they also brought in a rookie, Bellis Jones. They plan on making him a part of the offense because of his speed. They have a few other guys there that they can do things with, and of course, the running game. If the running game is clicking, that play action will start clicking, and everything in this style of offense. It's not a exclusive running offense, but it's a little more run heavy than some of the other ones, and part of that is because they want everything to look the same. They want all the zone plays to look the same, so you never know what's going to happen. So when you do come with the play action pass and those bootlegs, it has a chance to pop for a big play.
Yep. Really,
if you can run, you become a so predictable team, and they protect the pass, and it's very, very difficult to attack. So I think if they can establish the run with Montgomery, as you say, they can also make the play action, quick pass, and screens, and it will be a very different attack from the last year.
Yeah, for sure.
And I want, because we have been talking for 45 minutes, like it looks like time goes flies so fast, and I want to talk also. I would like to talk, about also the draft, but first about your division. How do you see that? We have talked about the Packers before. Do you still see them as the favorite for the division?
Unfortunately, yeah. I think the Packers, again, as long as Aaron Rodgers is there, I got to pick the Packers, and I think they're going to be the class. But I think the Vikings are solid. I mean, they're having their own coach. They're having a coaching change too. But again, it's a quarterback spot. Is Kirk Cousins the top elite quarterback in the NFL? I don't think so. He's very good. He's a good quarterback. He understands what he has to do within the system. You mentioned the running game they have. They have a good running game. They have a decent defense. I think they'll probably be the second best team, and I think the Bears will be battling it out with the Lions for third and fourth place. The Lions have had some nice drafts the last couple of years. They're in year two. They're in year 2 of their rebuild. So I think they're a little further along as far as that goes. So may give them the edge, but ultimately, I don't think the Lions or the Bears are going to be pushing for a playoff spot.
Me the same. I'm one of those guys that I'm always disappointed. Every time that starts the year, I think that the Vikings, they are going to have a good season. Not a great, but a good season, because they have a really good roster.
Yeah,
I think they have a really powerful roster. For the bad seasons, they are going to make it. They are making it. Sorry, they have incredible receivers. They have an average quarterback. They have a good defense. They have also good run, wide receivers. What else do the Vikings need? It's always my question. Apart of Kirk Cousins, a guy is a random average, quarterback. In my opinion, completely agree. It's a good one, but it's like go on. Apart of this, what else do you think they need? Because they have good receivers, they have good run. Defense, the defense could be. What do you think? Do you think that it's failing on the Vikings? Last years.
From talking to some of the guys I know that cover the Vikings, it's their offensive line the last few years hasn't been the best. I mean, that kind of limits some of the stuff they want to do. But like you said, they have good skill positions, and at quarterback, it's like I said, Kirk Cousins gets a lot of criticism, but he's capable. I mean, he is a good enough quarterback, but at the end of the day, you got to decide as a franchise, is having a guy there good enough? Is he enough? I mean, they keep bringing him back, so obviously I think he's capable enough to lead them to the playoffs. But if you're not getting there, you're not going over the hump. At some point, you got to go ahead and bite the bullet and do a full-on rebuild, and they're not ready for that. They brought they fired their coach last year, new GM, new head coach. You would think they're going to rebuild now, but they're not. They think they have a good enough team in place. They're going to kind of keep going with Kirk Cousins. You mentioned the receiver Jefferson. They have some, good skill players around him. So
he's a great receiver.
He's outstanding. I mean, if that O-line holds up for them, I think that's going to help push them closer to the playoffs. The defense, there's enough playmakers back here to make some plays. So it's just one of those things, not every team can get over the hump, plus them playing in the same division as the Packers just have dominated that division for so long. So it kind of hurts.
Yeah. I was laughing because I had a question that was funny. We haven't talked yet about the Lions. It was a question about what I wanted to ask you. But I have my opinion. I think the Packers are not that strong. I think they had the players they left, and not only Adams. Not only. It's also, when I was reading, I didn't remember that. And he has a Spanish surname. I think it's called Marquez Scanley. It's called this way. Is the receiver, the wide receiver, Marquez?
Scanley, yeah.
Yeah, sorry for I have bad memory, extremely bad memory of the names. And for me, he was one of the reasons why the Packers were working that good, because the receivers. I remember 3, 4, 5 years ago, the Packers had a losing balance season. I think 4, 5, 6 years. I don't remember. And I remember that day, Aaron Rodgers complained about the receivers. Mm-hmm. Now he was having really good receivers. He made a good season, but now he is not having these receivers or letting go these receivers. He still has powerful receivers, but he is. I don't see favorites like last season. The Packers. I think the gasoline is over. The petrol is over. I think Rodgers is going to start. It's a team I don't like. So I don't like the Packers here. So it's why I was. And I like less, in my opinion. It's my opinion, my opinion. I hate Aaron Rodgers. It's a kind of. It's like I hate. I don't know why. It's kind of. I always hated this man. I don't. More even than Brady, But well. And the other thing, I don't want, because we're going to lose all the Packers fans. And but the thing is, I don't see the as you mentioned before, the Lions that bad this year. I don't consider them one of the worst teams in the NFL.
They are gonna be a pain in the ass.
Yes,
that's it.
That's a good way to put it.
Because maybe they don't have a lot of talent. In my personal opinion, I think they did a very good draft, but the energy that the coach give to the roster is amazing. They fight like soldiers in the field. So maybe his record is not gonna be positive, but they're gonna be a pain in the ass for a lot of teams, for sure.
Yeah, I have your opinion about it. Yeah, Lester, I was going to ask you the same.
Yeah, I agree. At the Lions, they have taken on the personality of their head coach. Dan Campbell's he's an old school hard ass guy, and that's what he wants his players to be like. And so you watch them play. I mean, that's how they play, and they're always tough. I mean, that's even last year when they weren't doing very good, they were in a lot of games. They're a physical team. That's why I said I think they're further along in the rebuild than the Bears are, which is why I think they're going to be better than a year ago. I just from a talent standpoint. There's still some question marks there. The quarterback still iffy. Jared Goff is okay, but it's like, come on, everyone knows he's not a franchise guy. So I think they'll be tough. And then as far as the Packers, they lost a lot of receivers, like you said. Scantling is gone. Adams, best receiver in the game, is gone. They have some draft picks there. If there's a lot of people say the Bears fans or a lot of Bears receivers are horrible. Their receiving corps, Darnell Mooney and a bunch of guys. I think they're better than the Packers. I mean, the Packers don't have much. They have Randall Cobb, who's aging. They have some rookies they hope to come through. They have Samuel Watkins, who hasn't been good in a while. So, but the difference is, it's friggin' Aaron Rodgers is the difference. He has a way to make things happen. And if his receiving core, the young guys step up, they still have Alan Lazard there. If a few of these young guys step up, they'll be fine. They may have to go a little more run stuff and hope Aaron Rodgers' magic has got one more year in it.
And this is the thing that I read this morning, and I didn't mention, but and you're going to laugh. I'm a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, so it's something funny because it's not a team that is a winning team, but it's a team that I always play close to my home, so it's a team I always like more. And I read this morning that I'm not joking, that the Jaguars, with the trade, these new things, and I'm going to talk about another thing I want to talk with you. They became the fourth team for, I don't know how the news say. I'm going to check it later. One of the most powerful teams in their conference. Do you think so?
No. I don't
The
think
question,
so.
yeah. I'm going to read. I'm going to search in my cell phone. The thing that I received is Jacksonville Jaguars is one of the 4 squads in the AFC with the best chance of repeating the Bengals' meteoric rise from the last season, right? Bucky Brooks from the NFL organization. And this is what I was going to ask you. Do you think that the teams that they were worse last year, I would say the 3, Jaguars, Texans, and Lions, they improved? In my opinion, they improved really much. Who is the worst team now in the NFL, in your opinion?
That's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of teams. It's hard to say until they really get going with training camp and you see how things kind of shake out and how the draft picks kind of incorporate themselves in their teams. But, I think all those teams you mentioned should be better. I mean, the Jags spent a ton of money. I mean, they spent a lot of money to kind of improve that roster. They're going to take a step up. I think, everyone's looking for a kind of a Bengals situation now. The Bengals went from, being, bad a couple years ago to the Super Bowl. And so a lot of the analysts are trying to find, okay, who's the next team that'll make that leap? And, that doesn't happen every year. I mean, there's always a team that goes worst to first, but going worst to the Super Bowl, that doesn't happen very often. I don't think you'll see a team do that this year. I think the Jets, even the Jets, as bad as they were a year ago, they have a chance to be better. Again, a lot of it hinges on the quarterback. I mean, if Lawrence, if Zach Wilson in New York, if these young guys step up, and with the Texans, it's who's the Texans? I can't even remember his name now, but he was a rookie last year.
David Mills. Yeah.
If Mills makes a step up, I mean, I think he flashed last year too. But I mean, it's either guy, and it's a new regime in Houston too. So it's going to be like it is every year in the NFL. It's fun to kind of see how things kind of play out, how the storylines go, and I think at the end of the day, we're going to look back and say, oh, I didn't expect that team to be so bad, But the AFC is tough. I mean, it's pretty top heavy, but there's a lot of competition there. So, one of those teams jumping up and making it to the Super Bowl, I can't see it happening.
There are 2 questions here. The one that I want to ask you before, but I think you answered. Do you think that Jared Goff is the worst quarterback of the NFL?
Who?
Jared Goff.
I don't think he's the worst. I mean, he's capable. He was nice with the Rams. Again, we're talking about the outside zone, the wide zone scheme, the bootleg stuff. He's not the greatest athlete in that scheme, but he was able to be capable. I think with Jared Goff, you got to kind of scale things back. Don't give him too much stuff to do. Run the ball. Be a tough-minded game, which is what the Lions. This is why I think the Lions will be fine because they're not asking Jared Goff to win them games. They're asking Jared Goff to kind of be a passenger on the train. Run the ball, play tough defense, be a tough-minded team, and I don't think he's the worst quarterback. I mean, there's some bad quarterback play out there, and I don't think Goff's the worst.
And this, I know that the questions are a little bit tricky. The previous question wasn't mine, was from also a fan. I have another interesting question, but now this is mine, and I'll be tricky. And sorry for that. But who is for you the worst starting quarterback of the league now in the moment? In your opinion, Be open. I don't want
I mean,
Drew Lock.
I mean, Locke has a lot to prove. I think Sam Darnold, if he's not starting anymore, but he was pretty rough. I mean, there's some teams that are kind of searching. There's some teams I wasn't sure what they were doing. Through the league. I mean, the Panthers making the big trade for Baker was good for them. So we'll kind of see how it shakes out. But I mean, Carson Wentz, a lot of question marks about Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
He really fell off. Yeah. He looked so good in Philly. And then whatever reason, if it was mental, if it was a health, who knows what happens, but he really fell off. And, if Wentz wins a job this year, he may be the worst guy.
Yeah, because I had many questions in my mind now, but I had one question that I think that it's really, really interesting, because here we read a lot, but the question is, do you think Deshaun Watson is going to play this year?
Yeah, I think he will. It's I think there was something came out with the Texans settled with several of the accusers. I think he sat all last year out. I think the league will look at that and say, that's part of his punishment, was sitting out all of last year. I think he'll get a suspension, but I think at some point he is going to come back and play.
And in what level do you think he's going to come back? Because it's not easy to come back after that time, and being exposed to this pressure. Because I think he mentally, I don't know what he did. I'm not judging it, and judging only from the football perspective. I don't know, after, it won't be easy being Deshaun Watson now. I think being watching in the street, watching in the team, being, signed like a person, like a Batman. Everybody, and every stadium he's going to go, I think everybody's going to boo, boo, and going.
Yeah.
He's going to be, I think people is talking, obviously, about the bad things he done that are horrible, but also people is not talking about the football that we are talking about football, how he's going to come back, because he's going to have a lot of pressure. Every stadium he's going to go, even in his own stadium, people in Cleveland, people face him, because of what he done, obviously, and also about, all what he's, So how do you think he's going to come back from the football perspective?
Yeah, from on field, I think he'll be fine, because he's been working out, he's been staying in shape, he's been doing what he has to do, a lot of work away from the facility, obviously, but the mental part of it, the pressure of it, when he goes on the road, he isn't going to get booed. You're going to have, protests, and you're going to have signs, and it's going to be all about, a lot of negativity towards Watson. So how he handles it, he's going to have to get ahead of things a lot of times and kind of do that. And again, from a purely on-field perspective, I think he'll be fine, but he'll have to kind of learn how to block some of that stuff out. And like you said, who knows the truth behind what happened there, but it's just a tough situation all around. And you would hope that the truth would come out at some point, just kind of for the league to put it behind him. But I think the player, as a player, from a purely player standpoint, I think he'll be fine.
Hopefully, because I think we lost one of the best quarterbacks in the league. It's a quarterback I like personally. I think he was one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I don't know your opinion about it. Yeah, both of you, but he was one of the best of the league. I saw him playing, I think, 3 years, the year before the pandemic. He was playing against the Jaguars in London. I watched him live, and I thought he was a next level quarterback. And for me, losing like this, a quarterback, it's kind of, hopefully he's coming back. And I don't know, he's not a direct rival, but do you see it with him having a good season, leading the Cleveland Browns to the first Super Bowl on their history? Because they have a great team.
They do.
It's amazing,
yeah.
in my opinion. It's a great team.
It's a good situation for him to be in, because the Browns have an outstanding offensive line. They have an outstanding running attack, so they can kind of ease him in, let him kind of find his place within the offense. In Houston, he was the offense. He had to do it all. I mean, he was the guy. In Cleveland, that's not what's going to be asked of him. He's being paid like it. I mean, he's getting huge money. So I think it's a good situation for him as a player. Again, we got to see how he comes through all this on a personal side of things, because who knows? I mean, that can really affect a player and kind of ruin where he's going forward. But again, on-field stuff, he's in a great fit, and if he's the guy he was, the Browns are a legit contender for a title.
And I know this, we're talking about more about general, because people, it's normal that here when we have a chance to talk about the person that knows about football in the United States, people like to ask, things that are happened. But we also have the question of your opinion about trade of Mayfield, like Mayfield. If you think from the Carolina point of view is a good trade, if he's going, well, and this is my question, if he's going to have a second chance, if he's a top quarterback, and if he's going to perform and have a good season in Carolina, because they have team. So Carolina is one of these teams that they are always, I would say that people have expectations,
Yeah, I like Baker Mayfield. I think he's a a good quarterback. I kind of put him in that Kirk Cousins kind of category. I mean, I think if, a franchise has to decide, is he going to take us to the next level? And it's you can win with him. I mean, the Browns won with him, but is he going to be that guy that goes to the next level? That comes down to the player performing. It's not as talented of a team that he was with in Cleveland. So he'll be asked more of him. And can he step up and produce is the big question. I have my doubts that he's going to be that guy that kind of leads the franchise, to the playoffs. But I like him. I think he's capable. I just don't think he's in that elite category where he can be expected to do it all on his own.
And you're seeing teams like 49ers can rise far with with this non-elite quarterback with Garoppolo. Do you think last question is, do you think not about the Bears, do you think he's going to stay in the 49ers? He's going to leave?
Yeah, there's a lot of buzz about them trading him. I think it's one of those things where they may wait and kind of see how training camp goes, wait and see how Trey Lance develops. There's been a lot of silly rumors about Trey Lance's arm. His arm is tired.
Yeah.
That's a lot of BS. It's the players say he's fine. You ever heard it from the coaches? But again, Trey Lance came from a smaller school. He didn't get a lot of playing time in college.
Yeah,
he has has really good physical traits. But again, playing quarterback's more than just how strong your arm is, and you have to understand the mental aspect. So if he can read the defense, if he can execute the plays properly, I think the Niners will make a move with Garoppolo. But again, we're talking about players that are kind of at that level of good. I think Garoppolo is a good quarterback. I don't think he'll ever take that next step and become, an elite guy, but you can win with him. I think at this point, you got to see what team would be even looking for Garoppolo. I mean, who's looking for a guy? Because if you make a trade for Garoppolo, he's coming in as your number one. You're not making a trade to put him on your bench. So who's out there? I mean, what teams are really looking? If an injury pops up, the Seahawks. I mean, that's the one they keep talking about. We'll see how that goes there. But if there's an injury, another team has an injury in camp or something, maybe that it pushes the timeline up. But it's possible.
Yeah. And coming back, because it's coming back to the Bears, how do you see training camp? How do you see expect surprises? Are you excited as a Bears, analyst? Are you excited to start, it's first, thing of the season? Are you excited on this training camp of the Bears?
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, it's always exciting when you have you're either covering a winning team is the best, or covering a team that you see a future. And with the Bears, I see a future. I see the plan Ryan Poles has, and I see what he wants to do. I understand this season may not be the best from a record standpoint, but they have a ton of cap space next season. They have all their draft picks, next season. They have young players they want to kind of develop this season. So I think that from a perspective of covering the team, it should be fun, just because, if Justin Fields is that guy, we're going to see it. We're going to feel what's going on with the franchise, and the whole city will get behind him. And I don't expect them to win a lot of games, but I expect them to be competitive. I expect the new coach to kind of put his philosophy on the defense. It's going to be a tough defensive team. It's going to be a tough-minded team, and that's what Chicago likes to see. But at the end of the day, the quarterback's going to develop. If he's developing like everyone hopes he is and everyone thinks he is, Justin Fields is the future will be very bright for him and for the city.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
One thing, it's and we have not much time. I think we promise not to be more like 1 hour and something, so we don't want to take more time. But yeah. This summer we're going to next month we're going to cover. We're going to come to the United States. Some of our fans, organization, we're going to come up to Chicago. Yeah, you have an opportunity to see us, and we're going to go to the training camp. So we are going hopefully to see them, the players, to see to see the players. And this is more a personal question that us from the fans of Spain. If you want to come to Chicago, what is your recommendation for the football fans? They go to Chicago. What is your recommendation? You need to go to the training camp. You need to go to this place, to the other. Go to the stadium, or before there. What is the best atmosphere? These things, the places that you recommend for the football fans, for the first fans that we have a lot in our community when they go to Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, if you're coming out for training camp, I mean, that's actually in the suburbs. That's actually a nice area. It's in Lake County. The house halls at Lake Forest. There's a ton of hotels in the area. But it's only like 40 minutes from the city. So if you're going to come out for training camp, you get a hotel in the burbs, of course, by camp. But then make sure you spend some time and take the train to the city. The metro runs there all the time. Take an Uber, go to the city. There's a lot of stuff to look at in the city. Navy Pier, the Bean. Obviously, you got to go try the food. The food in Chicago is outstanding. Just find some places and make a nice vacation out of it if you're going to come watch the Bears.
In a football perspective, there are some places, some locations that they have relevance for the football fans, for the Bears fans, some maybe places, pubs, football associations or something that maybe for the fans, because we have a lot of people that is now traveling to the United States because they have been closed for COVID and for the pandemic. But a lot of people are traveling to the United States, and Chicago is main touristic destination.
Yeah.
We have been reading that Chicago has no words to define because it's a top city. And after New York, I think it's the East Coast, second city is more visited. So. But from a football perspective, you have some recommendations to visit places. If there are some, obviously going to Soldier Field, but another places do you recommend to go or visit or
Yeah, like if you come in for the actual game in Soldier Field, of course, you got to check out Navy Pier. It's a big tourist place, but honestly, a lot of the stuff in Chicago that you it's the stuff that you don't hear a lot about, and I would recommend going to some of the sites. To do some research online. Like I said, I mentioned the food. You got to try some of the pizza, some of the other stuff they got there. The Italian beefs, Chicago's known for. So make sure you try and find some of the local cuisine. Try and hit up some of the food trucks you have in the city. You got to go on Twitter, find where they're at, depending on what it is. But that's one reason why they are looking to move to the suburbs and actually have the new field in Arlington Heights, is because they want to build it up and have it more of a fan-friendly atmosphere. I mean, it's cool going to Chicago. I mean, I work downtown during the week, so I'm there quite a bit. But from getting around there, it's there's things to do. There's things from a tourist perspective, but you just got to find out what suits your need. There's always something going on. Museums. A ton of museums in the area. There's a lot of theater stuff going on in the area. So whatever you enjoy away from football, you'll find that to do in Chicago.
That's good. That's really good. And us is more people that doesn't know really much about the training camp. What would the people expect for going to training camp to see?
Training camp is like I said, it's at House Hall. It's at their team facility. It used to be in Bourbonnais, which is Southern Illinois, and it was it's still free. It's always been free, but in Bourbonnais there was no cap on tickets. Since it's actually in the team facility, there's actually a cap on tickets. You have to actually get your tickets online, and I believe right now they're all sold out. But again, if you're going to be in the area during training camp, go on social media, go on Twitter, go on Facebook, throw it out there. You're looking for tickets, because you always find guys that they'll get their 4 tickets and they can't make it for some reason. There's always room, like for me, I got 3 days. I ended up finding tickets for them going 3 different days. I know other guys that have got tickets that they haven't even confirmed that the threesome they're going with. So you're going to see guys wanting to give their tickets away online, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. So if you're going to be in the area and you want to take a day at camp, hit up social media. You'll find guys that'll give your tickets up. That's good.
But more, that is good to know, because we're talking with the Chicago Bears, and hopefully we can get some media, as we are also media registered here, and we can go. So hopefully we can get some media stuff. But we will take in consideration, because it is interesting. It's interesting to know. But just more what we are going to expect of going to a day. They are always training. They make games between the first team and the second team. What do the people can expect of going to training camp? What do? They make physical exercises. They separate the wide receivers.
I mean,
it's a little bit.
I got you. Yeah, at camp itself, it's just like a traditional football practice. I mean, you see them; they'll come together. They'll do their early stretching, their exercises. They get their workouts in. They get their energy up. And then with Coach Eberflus, he's talked about how he wants to run a fast-paced training camp. So I'm expecting it to be a lot of hustling, a lot of moving station to station. They'll break out positions, the running backs, the receivers, the O-line, the DBs, the linebackers. They'll all have their own positional groups, and then they'll come together for teamwork, and then they'll do the ones against the twos. And they kind of rotate, and they'll rotate things in and kind of get the 7-on-7, the 11-on-11, a lot of scrimmaging, a lot of install as far as the stuff they want to do. And then they'll break up again and go back to individual team stuff. They'll work some special teams. It all depends on the day you're there. I mean, they don't spend as much time on special teams every practice, but it's, again, if you go to training camp, it's a pretty big facility. You just find a spot, sit down, and just enjoy and just take it all in.
Thanks for explaining us, because as we said, there's a lot of people, I know friends of mine that travel. It's true that people traditionally travels on summer. There's no NFL. People travel at Christmas or December to the United States because they are long trips, obviously, to go from Spain or from Europe to the US. They don't go for a weekend. But people, we had some fun because we were saying that we were going, and they were asking what do you expect of going to a training camp. It's like a game. It's like, what? You will be able to know to meet the players. You will be able to see the what, blah, blah, blah. So this a little bit, because if we have fans that this year it's figured out, sold out, and next year with people in Spain that is expecting that these training camps, they're traveling in August because everybody in Spain travels in August, to go to the United States, to any city, maybe they can go and they are excited to go there, and they say, oh, knowing that tickets are good and this is a good place to go, next year I'm going to go to some city, Indianapolis, Chicago, LA, whatever, and attend to training camp, and if it's worth it. So last question. It is the last question of the show. I have some more questions remaining, but next time we could have another program because there are many. We haven't talked about the draft. We haven't talked about many things, But the last question is, and it's an easy question now. It's, what do you think about the international expansion of the NFL? What do you think? And what's your opinion? And why do they choose Spain the best? I have my own opinion. I have my opinion, but I want to know, what do you think about it and your opinion about it?
I think it's great. I mean, we talked a bit on the pre-show when I was talking to you, and the NFL just wants to brand this internationally. I mean, they are pushing their product overseas in Africa right now. I mean, they're trying to really get the brand to grow, and as far as Chicago goes, I mean, there's a huge Spanish speaking population in the city.
That's it.
And it's, I mean, there are Spanish language broadcasts of the game. I think so. They want to just reach as many people as possible. I think they see there's a market there. The popularity, like you said, is growing. I know the Bears, but back in the 80s, they were one of the first teams to play overseas. They played in the UK back when they were the 85 Bears. They were still one of the top teams in the game. And that's why there are so many fans, overseas in that area, is because of that. They haven't been the best team of late, which is why now a lot of teams now root for the Patriots or the Niners. Like you said, they gravitate towards the winners. But there's still a lot of old school Bears fans that are over there in that area. And I think they just want to grow the brand. And I think the NFL does a great job with that because it's global. I mean, it's, this day and age, everything, it's a much smaller world because of the internet, obviously. The games are on everywhere. So, growing the product, getting as many people as possible is a great thing for the brand.
I'm completely with you, And the other team that chose Spain, the Miami Dolphins. It has a lot of sense. And Miami is a Spanish-speaking city. Of America, but then it's Chicago. They say it was my opinion. There are a lot of Spanish-speaking, fans in Chicago. So this was the reason why. So I don't want to take you more time, Lester. We appreciate really much your time. We're going to say a few words in Spain in Spanish, to say goodbye to the people because we have many questions. But you are always invited to here to talk with us. We're really glad to talk to you because for us it's a big opportunity to know closer everything that you need to know. That everything that comes to Spain, it's not general opinion. It's everything. There are pages that are rolled. They analyze everything, but nothing on detail. In somehow we need these focus analysis on the teams, on the people that our Bears fans that they are looking for, having a more team-based conversation. We don't have many people to talk every day with a fan, but at Chicago they are association in the US. But as Chicago chose Spain as an international country, we want to make this effort, to talk with references of Chicago like you are. So I appreciate your time, Lester. You're always invited. Hopefully to talk to you soon here in the Fumble Show, Spain.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you
so much
for coming.
And you, Daniel, thank you for coming. Y como decía, volviendo al español, muchísimas gracias a todos los que habéis hecho preguntas, a todos los que nos habéis visto. Hemos tenido la gran suerte de contar con Lester hoy en nuestro programa. Como hemos dicho antes, abiertos a queréis entrevistar, queréis participar en estos programas, totalmente abierto. Todos los que habéis preguntado si queréis uniros como Dani valientemente ha hecho hoy a estar con nosotros. Y si queréis que hagamos esto con personas de otros equipos, pues estamos abiertos. Como os hemos dicho y hemos anunciado antes, este verano haremos una comitiva que viajaremos lo íbamos a anunciar estos días en las redes sociales. Haremos una pequeña comitiva que iremos a diferentes ciudades de Estados Unidos a cubrir algún partido y a cubrir también pues los Chicago Bears, hablar con ellos y hablar con diferentes también asociaciones, etcétera. Aún no tenemos el programa definido. Lo que sí que tenemos definido y también aprovecho para no lo digo yo personalmente, pero para comunicarnos es el viaje que haremos. Ya lo hemos anunciado estos días en las redes sociales. Estamos planificando ir al partido de los Broncos contra los Jaguars en London. Va a ser una oportunidad muy buena. No sé de los que habéis estado vosotros allí, pero a mí me encanta. Es como sentir allí, estar con muchísima gente de diferentes países y disfrutarlo. Entonces, deciros que las inscripciones están abiertas, que aún estamos con todo, podéis apuntaros sin compromisos. Hemos hecho un precio competitivo, iremos con hostel, lo pasaremos bien, iremos al tailgate. Yo iré personalmente, entonces pues lo vamos a pasar muy bien. Entonces apuntaros, hay un link en Instagram, podéis apuntaros y informaros cómo ha sido el proceso. Nada más, muchísimas gracias a todos y desearos una feliz noche. Nos volvemos a ver la próxima vez y nada más. Viva el fútbol, viva los Chicago Bears y hasta la próxima. Muchas gracias. Hasta luego.
Good night, guys. Bye.
Go Bears!
Go Bears.
Go Bears. Bye bye.